Hello everyone. So today's video I'll go through with another scenario based interview questions. So which I recently got in one of my interview. So the questions goes like, if you can read it, can you walk me through how you design a incremental load pipeline for multiple source table into Azure ADLS? Okay. So the question is, we need to design or we need to explain how we'll design a incremental load pipeline if you have multiple source table, and for each different source table we have different this incremental column to filter it out and incrementally load into Azure ADLS. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll explain this in two way. First, I'll explain the architecture level which I created in Notion page. As you can see, I'll showcase here the data, how it looks like, how the flow will gonna be, and once it is done I'll explain in the pipeline level. I'll run the pipeline or each activity I'll explain. Okay, so let's go with the very first one. So as you can see in the architecture, the source is on-prem SQL server and the destination is Azure ADLS. So where I need to build pipeline using this ADF. And again, so once I'm loading this table, let's say we have different table, and those table will be loaded in different folder, those respective folder. Okay, so how the data looks like, here it is. So data will be look something like this. For this example I created 4 table. You can see claim table, so it's a healthcare domain related table. So you can take it as a real only, because this is how something the healthcare domain data looks like. We have the claim table, we have encounter table, we have provider table, we have patient table. Okay, so if you see the 4 table I have explained given over here. If I showcase in the MySQL server, you can see the same. We have the you know uh, for claim table, we have the modified date as a the incremental column. Same way for encounter table, we have modified date as an incremental column, but for provider and for patient date we have created date as an incremental column. Okay, so based on this modified this incremental column, it should get filter it out and it should to sync into the ADFS. So that's the goal. Okay, so what and how I will be doing it. So what my goal is, I'll be creating a metadata table. On that metadata table I'll look up, and in that metadata table I'll store each table details. Like for one particular table, what should be the incremental column name. So as different table have different incremental column name, so I need to specify and use, I should specifically keep in a metadata table. For one particular table, this is the watermark column, and for that watermark column I will keep a last process value also. Okay, so all this data I will keep in a metadata table. So my metadata table will look like something this. If you see, I kept for each table those respective incremental column, and those column last process value also I kept. If you see, by default I kept 1950 in order to fully load will happen for fast iteration or fast tree. Okay, again for those table, what should be the sync location, that path also I given. So incrementally it will sync to those respective path. Got it? And also another column I created in order to monitor with you whichever are active flag, whether to go with incrementally or not. Okay, so how the sync will look like, the sync location will look like those respective column wise, I mean table wise folder will be created, and those data incrementally will get added. Got it? Now I believe you got idea how the flow will look like and how the data is exiting and metadata things. Okay, now the pipeline. Okay, so I believe at least you are aware of all this activity, so I'm not something gonna say what is lookup activity will do and all. I'll showcase the flow over here. Okay, so what we are doing over here, we are lookup happening over here for which table, this metadata table, and for each item. So all this item, everything, the rows will go to for each activity. Once the lookup activity is done, inside for each activity, 2 steps it is happening. First step, we need to, again after the execution is done, we need to update this last processed file, right? Let's say incremental load is done, then in order to the next execution time, the latest value should come, our last process value for that table should get updated, right? So to get this last processed value to update, that value will come from that source table, right? What is the max value of this particular watermark column? So that is what we need to get in order to update the watermark table, which is, or we can say metadata table in our case, this table. So first, inside the for each activity, we are using a for lookup activity in order to get or query lookup for max value. So this will basically find the max value from the source table. So this will connect to the source table, and it will get for each table. For this table, it will get the what is the max value from here. For this table, what is the max value from here. For this table, what is the max value from here, and so on. Okay, and then once the max value it got, then the exact copy will happen from here. The copy activity simple. It will copy one table. Let's say the claim table is this one. It will copy and it will save or the sync into the claim folder. Okay, the copy activity will do the same. The simple thing. Once the copy is done, we have the another activity called notebook activity, which will basically update this last process value using this lookup max value what it got. Okay, so my lookup max value will get from this one, and it will update for let's say claim table. It will update this value wherever the table is claimed. So that was the logic inside this notebook activity. I hope you got at least a high level idea by this Notion page. We are not finished yet. I will go through with each pipeline so you'll get a better idea. Okay, so this is the pipeline look like. So I believe I already have run it, but if it is not, so let's say what exactly each activity does. Okay, so let me okay, already I run it by the way. So if I check, so if you see at the very first time it is 1950. Okay, and I already run the pipeline, so it should get updated with the max value. Okay, if I open it, or if I what is the data inside this metadata table, if I check this value should get updated. Okay, I didn't explain the pipeline how it's look, but you should get idea like this max value should get updated, and I am telling the pipeline is already run. That means this max value will get updated, and let's wait for the output. See the max value, it was 1950. If you see, every value got updated for this respective table. Okay, now let's move from the starting. What is the lookup? What is lookup is happening over here? Lookup is happening for the metadata table, which I just shown you. Okay, this is the metadata table incremental control metadata. From there we are going to for each activity. Inside there, as I said, first we are lookuping for max value from each table, then we are copying, then we are updating the watermark column for that metadata table for that particular source table. So here if I showcase what exactly lookup we are doing in order to get the lookup activity by using this credential, it will connect to my SQL server. Then what I'm querying over here, if you see, for that select max of my watermark column as max value from the table. Okay, so as item wise it will go. So this value will give how many record? 4 item it will give. For each item, I mean this value, first lookup. Okay, this lookup will give the 4 item from the metadata table. As I have the 4 item over here, if you see 4 item I have, for each item the lookup for each activity will go. Okay, so inside this for each activity, for each item it will get the max value. Then we are doing copy. If you see, if I open over here, what it is copying, here is the main incremental thing happening. If you see, select start from the table where the incremental column which I stored in the metadata table for that particular respective table, which is nothing but here item.table, if it is greater than that respective process value, if it is greater, the whatever it filter it out and value came, those should get come, and those should get synced into which place? It should sync into the landing container. Inside that we have a folder. What is a folder? I I created a folder like incremental data folder slash I created name wise the table name. Let's say the claim is there, claim will come inside there. Another folder we created, this will be the incrementally indication happen. So fast iteration or fast execution, it will come as a, let's say, claim and 2025 10th month, everything will come. Okay, so whenever next next run I'll do, this time the name will change. That time it will be 2025 for date and this time will change. Okay, let's say now only I'm doing. So that's how the data will change. Okay, so this thing I'll showcase how the data look like. Okay, give me 1 second. So this is the lending container. If I open this incremental data, and inside there, let's say claim. If you see claim, we have 2025 and the data. Here if you see claim data is there. Got it? This is how the indicates incremental. What time it run, this is how the folder. Let's say one more time if I run, here another folder will create with that timestamp. I hope it is clear now. Okay, once that is done, once the syncing is done, then we are doing a notebook activity call, which will basically take two parameters. One is the max value and for which table. This table, let's say item top table, and max value will come from this activity. Okay, which is getting the max value. If you see, look out for max value, that fast row dot max value. Okay, this value, and that will go and update the notebook. How this notebook look like? This notebook look like something this. If you see, it is taking from the widgets max value and the table name, and it is basically updating. If you see, update that particular incremental control table, which what it to update, last process value update from the max value with proper timestamp data type conversion, where the table name is item.table name, which it got from the notebook execution activity. I hope the flow was clear and you got some idea. Okay, and if it is clear, you can like it or subscribe it, or you can share with your friends in order to make me motivate and follow forward. Okay, so that's all for today's video.